All right. Am I real Texan? Why the fuck am I asking that question? Let's go ahead and jump into it. So, I was watching Vice Asia, and they had a video talking about mixed race kids in China. And they were talking, they started talking with a girl who had a Chinese dad and a Ugandan mom, said they were in love, this and that. I was like, oh, geez. Oh, honey. Oh, honey. Come on now. You got to be old enough to realize. Come on. But anyway, they left each other. 4 or 5. She was sent to Beijing to live with dad's family. Um, and she's a fashion model and designer. And I say to myself, oh my goodness, oh Lord, this poor girl. I mean, and then of course, what do? Is they show the nicer, like the more Eurasian, maybe Hapa type of gal who is a little bit nicer looking, and it's just like they're trying to contrast it. I didn't even watch the whole thing, but I just flipped through it and I was like, okay, that's what it is. But it made me ask the question on a deeper level. For me anyway. Am I a real Texan? The reason I asked that question is, it's like, being a honky, okay, that's one thing. But have you ever, been a cowboy, right? That's the typical thing, what people think of Texans as. Like I said, if you've lived in Texas, you know that cowboys really don't exist apart from living on the triple or quadruple six ranch. I was gonna say triple. Ooh, 7777777. Yeah. Anyway, the quadruple six ranch or the king ranch, or maybe other small ranches in between there. Generally speaking, ranchers, vaqueros really don't exist. Not in the same way. They don't, and other than folks who LARP and put on the big old cowboy hat and maybe put on, a Wrangler shirt and jeans, who want to act like they're, it's like, well, my dad was a, you know, rancher, and he was a cowboy for a little bit. I don't really do it that often. I'm actually a lawyer, but I do it every once weekend or something like that. I go down there for a couple hours and or for the weekend and come back. So, like I say, I'm just a city slicking fool. You know, Never really went mudding or did these things that are typical just in the general Southern context, right? Just because I like sweet tea now doesn't mean necessarily I'm from the South. So it's like I asked myself those questions. It's just something to think about, to be honest with you. I've realized more and more, as much as I say, oh well, I like Texas or I don't like Texas, or it's like he loves me, doesn't love me, the typical thing with that, with the rose petals. But the thing is, this is I've accepted the fact that I'll probably end up living the rest of my life in Texas, pretending and LARPing as a Texan and trying to put on the accent as much as I can when needed. Um, not putting on a cowboy hat and put on cowboy boots and LARP around like I'm a cowboy, because like that's bullshit. I know that ain't gonna be good. But I'll bullshit my way as much as I can and make it seem like I am, as we increasingly move into this sort of you know this sort of warlord like period in the United States, in my opinion. I believe corporations will be involved. Much as I talk about OCP being NGOs, that I do think corporations will be involved. Absolutely. And the thing is, if the United States at this point is just it's just an insane asylum. I think everyone can accept that. The United States is an insane asylum. People, they expect revolution, and they expect all these other sort of things. Man, at the end of the day, I just think that it'll slowly collapse, and I do think that the U.S. will just become irrelevant. And eventually, way past my lifetime, I'll tell you that, but 100, 200, 300 years in the future, and that, realistically, the U.S. just won't have influence. The U.S. will be seen as something that used to be, like a Spanish Empire or a British Empire or Roman Empire, whichever you want to say, but eventually became a group of fiefdoms, became a group of regional actors who, became semi-independent, and independent in some cases, and I think that's going to be the future. The McDonald's nationalism that exists now, where it's like we're all united under, everyone getting a Big Mac, that's going to go away. The Starbucks nationalism of like bougie people, I think that'll go away. And so it doesn't matter if you're a real Texan or if you're a real Georgian. I'm talking about the state of Georgia, down there with the, outside of Atlanta. Nobody cares about Atlanta. That's some gay shit. There's some crazy shit that goes on in Atlanta. It's just, anyway, but are you a true, Mississippi follower? You live on a riverboat or something like that. I don't know. I don't know about Mississippi, but are you a cotton farmer? I don't know. I know that's racist. I know. I'm sorry, but it won't really matter, because if you stay here long enough, you just become one, right? And they just accept you because, like, oh yeah, I remember so and so place used to be there and whatnot, and that makes you a local, and that you remember stuff from the past, and maybe you like racing or whatever the case may be, and as long as you have one thing that's considered more Southern, then you're accepted. I think, generally speaking. I don't know. At this point, it doesn't really matter in the United States. It will become a thing, I think, to a point later on, and they can tell. But I think that, real Southerners can tell where you're from. I remember when I was doing a temp job, we were cleaning out what in the world was it? It was, I think, a sewing shop. And one guy was saying, oh, yeah, you're from Georgia. And it's like, you can tell it's like, Germans can recognize what part of the country you're from by how you speak. The same type of thing with true Southerners. You can be like, oh, yeah, you're from Georgia. Oh, you're from Mississippi. You're from Louisiana. And you can tell the difference between accents. I can somewhat tell, I think, but I'm not quite there yet. I mean, it's pretty obvious, even with like the UK, where it's like, oh, yeah, you're from the North, aren't you? Yeah. You're from the North. You know, you're doing all that then, hey? Did you go out and played a bit of footy and all that? Do you know what I mean? But what the fuck am I even talking about? But I do think that's what's going to occur. I think the regionalism will be somewhat astroturf, but I think eventually it'll just become more of a reality just by what you're surrounded by, right? It's like Louisiana. They're still going to be eating alligator. They're not going to kill all the alligator, but they're going to, they're going to still be eating alligator down there. You go out to Texas, you're still going to be eating beef, beef ribs and whatnot. You're going to have some pork, don't get me wrong, but it's not really, West Coast, East Coast, you're still going to have, your fish and whatnot, your various fish dishes and whatnot. I mean, I do think that's what's going to occur. I think a civil war, I don't think anyone has the cojones to do that, regardless of people that run their mouths, including me. But I think that the U.S. will just break apart. I know I've said this for years, but I do think that's what's going to happen. It'll just kind of naturally break apart. And then eventually, Yeah, we've seen, of course, recruiting numbers. We can't even get, what is it? I think 87,000. Hold on. U.S. Army recruiting. I'm just gonna let y'all. Yeah, U.S. Army recruiting. Let's see here. I know that there's press Pentagon for answers about as military recruiting crisis deepens. They can't even get 80,000. Army will train recruits who don't meet initial standards mid. Yeah. Let me see if Politico has it. Let me see. VNA Congress. Worst recruiting environment since the end of the Vietnam War. I think it's like 80,000 though. I think it's 80,000. And they can't even make that. So to me, I feel like that's just where we are. Localism, regionalism, I do think is the future. I don't think it's going to be based on race. I think generally speaking, in the United States, race is still an issue. Don't get me wrong. But I think that's what the laws currently, as they were written, 50s and 60s and whatnot. But I think that race won't be as much of an issue because, people are horny, when you can either just be, a hypocritical sort of guy who, it's always the deep-seated guys who are like, yeah, I really don't like black folks, that you find out that they got fellatio from a black dude. And you're just like, oh, okay. That's why I try not to get into the race stuff too hard. I've done it, but I realize at the end of the day, people are horny. And people are gonna do things they don't agree with. But they're like, it's one of those post-nut clarity situations. But man, does it matter if I'm a real Texan? It doesn't. It really doesn't. If I stay here long enough and find me a Hispano wife of some sort, it really won't matter, But that's where we are. It's just we see these things crumbling around us, and at least on a federal level, maybe the state level, but local places will just have to pick up the pieces basically, and get people working somehow. How they're going to pay them, that's a matter of opinion, but that's what's going to be the future. If you really believe that Marxism is going to save everybody, or if you think that whatever ism is going to save it, no. Even regionalism is just it's just kind of a catch-all term, at least in my view. That regionalism will have its different, will have its different culture, and will have its different tendencies versus other regionalism and other localism. That's the whole idea of it. Maybe that's cope. Maybe that is cope. But, that's all I got. I'm more just reiterating what I've said before. I try not to get too deep into the race issues. Yeah, it can be easy to be sucked into it. If you see X person get attacked by black person, video number 2022. But at the end of the day, you have to live in society. You can go ahead and be a bigot all you want, but it's like, if you still want to have a job, you're not going to go off like that, Yeah, that's all I got. So hopefully y'all enjoyed that. See you later. Goodbye.